Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Future Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Juliette Lamar, and joining us today is Ofer Lidsky. He is the co-founder at Dnatix. Welcome, Ofer. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're really excited to talk to you about this company. So why don't you give our listeners a little insight into Dnatix and what you're doing over there?
Great. Well, Dnatix is an Israeli startup which connects two important technology, blockchain and genetics, to bring new possibilities into genetics, which the most important one is the possibility of consuming genetic services in an anonymous way.
So how does it work? Is it available to everyday people?
Currently, the ecosystem is under development. We are building the first prototypes of all the different interfaces, and very soon, different users would be able to start and use different functionalities of the system. We are building an ecosystem where all the different players in genetics could take part, and in the middle, the consumer that can consume genetic services in an anonymous way for the first time in the world, and to participate in research, whether you choose to do that and get rewarded for that.
Fantastic. So I guess, how would it all work if I wanted to utilize your service? What would be the steps I would take?
Well, the entry point into this future ecosystem is performing a full genome sequence of your DNA, which is the process of taking the DNA as a molecule from a saliva sample, for example, and performing the sequencing, and the output is a computer file, which is what you use in order to get into the ecosystem and start to analyze your DNA and know more about your health and to manage your future health and to personalize your medicine.
That is fantastic. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that?
Exactly.
So what are some of the biggest use cases that you would see this being the best case solver for?
Well, genetics is undergoing a great change where it's going to go digital, and a lot of people are going to have their sequence as a file, and they will look for the meaning of their DNA sequence. And our DNA holds a lot of meaning in regards to our health and our future. So we believe this is a new era where people are going to manage their own health, and they're going to analyze their DNA. And then they will have the possibility of choosing what to do with that in regards to different conditions. So let's take a very good and a light example. There is a genetic test that tests the risk of getting bald. So young men can test that at an early age and really postpone the age of their baldness. And this is really a tool that you can use today, by the way. And so this is really a light example of what genetics can bring in the lifestyle field. But of course, you can use genetics to a lot of different medical aspects and even to like Alzheimer or really different conditions which are not so light.
You know, it seems like a no-brainer that we want to get an insight into our own genetics and see what the future holds. You know, that is an incredible thing to be a part of. Are there any downsides to it that you see?
Well, as far as we know, and we have a lot of experience in genetics, so we've been doing it for almost 10 years in different aspects. There are certain people that don't want to know everything, and not all the people want to know if they have a risk for Alzheimer, which is a very hard disease that currently there is no cure for that. So there are very different aspects to what you can do with genetics. And I think that we're introducing the possibility of really keeping the privacy of the consumer, which solves a major problem in genetics that, where does your DNA go and who holds it and what are they doing with it? And this is a major problem today with the direct-to-consumer genetics.
And with diseases such as Alzheimer's that don't have a cure yet, is gathering personal genetic data and seeing this on a wider scale when people are volunteering to give you this information, is that also going to help with research and being able to find cures to these genetic diseases?
Exactly. This is another great thing that the technology brings for genetics, that the blockchain and the cloud technologies is the possibility of really bringing large populations with many DNA sequences into research, which is one of the major problems today in research, is really to bring a big database of samples. And this is going to solve exactly that, because once on the ecosystem, there will be millions of sequences. So different researchers around the world could initiate research and really have access to large amount of sequences, which is not available today, and it's really hard today to do that. So it's going to advance research, and it's going to make it much, much faster and cheaper. And hopefully we'll get new answers in genetics, and we'll probably be able to solve new things.
Absolutely, such a big step forward in our healthcare system.
Yeah.
Go ahead and give us a little insight. I know you and I were chatting earlier off the air about how you started this company with your best friend. Give us a little background into your journey into this space and how Dnatix came to be.
Well, it happens to be that my best friend finished his PhD degree in Weizmann Institute, and today is a Dr. Tal Science, and this happened back in 2007. And we opened the first phase of the company as a service company, as a genetic service company in Israel, and we marketed different genetic tests through genetic counselors and doctors and the healthcare system. And we really got to know this space and how it works. And genetics has a lot of different aspects. It comes to regulation and morality and laws and different things. And about 2 to 3 years ago, we developed the first part of the platform, which enables to upload a full genome sequence and performing analysis by yourself. It's running genetic tests on your own DNA sequence. And about a year ago, we got into the blockchain space, and we saw that it comes to solve a really big problem in genetics, two biggest problems. One is security. With the blockchain, you can really keep the integrity of the DNA sequence in the most secure way. And the other is privacy, which is the biggest problem in genetics, in the direct-to-consumer genetics, and the blockchain solves exactly that. So we understood that we are in a new way of creating an ecosystem for the world where all the different players could take part. And it's really going to advance genetics in many aspects, and we talked about it, research, and of course for the consumers.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how blockchain and DNA share a lot of commonalities.
And of course there are big challenges to really go through. One of the biggest challenges when you connect genetics and blockchain is the huge amount of data that you have to deal with. That is really not easy to solve with blockchain technologies. And this is exactly what we are coming to solve. One of the things to solve a problem like that is to attack it from different aspects. One of them is DNA compression. So we developed already a tool that compresses any DNA by 75%. And we released that as an open source tool on GitHub. And we are now working to improve that and to get into the 99% compression rates, which we will probably succeed very soon, hopefully. And this is a game changer because it will enable us to really take a full genome and compress it by 99% and maybe more. And then it's much easier to put it on the blockchain and do all the magic that we want to do with the sequences.
That's fantastic. And that's just one of the many services that you offer. And we covered a few. You do full sequencing, the genetic research, data transfer, genetic counseling. Tell us a little bit about what that entails.
Well, the ecosystem incorporates different interfaces for different players, which means that, for example, the consumer has his own genetic wallet, which connects him to his DNA sequence, and he has a marketplace with different genetic tests. The researcher has a research interface where he can initiate research and plan the budget and the timeline and how many sequences he wants. And the genetic counselor has his own interface where he can interact anonymously and sometimes not anonymously. It depends on the consumer, with different consumers around the world, and really give service as a genetic counselor.
That's fantastic. So you're both looking at the genetics and seeing what's the best plan of action.
Yeah.
So you said the product's not quite ready to go yet. When can we expect to see it out on the market and being used?
Well, we are rolling out different services in the next year. We started by showing the first anonymous full genome sequence service about a month ago at the exhibition in Europe. We displayed the first prototype, and we are going to launch this service in the next 60 days in 2 or 3 countries around the world. And then we're going to add more and more services onto that. So in the next year, we're going to see some new services coming out. And we intend to roll our own dedicated genetic blockchain within a year, which will incorporate the entire functionality of the ecosystem.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. You also have a token sale going on. Is that correct?
Exactly. We are finishing our private sale and going into the pre-sale in August 15th, which is 9 days from now.
And if people want to get involved and to follow that sale, your website would be the best resource for that.
Exactly. If you go to our website, www.dnatix.com, you will get all the information, how you can participate in the sale and how you can join our communities and help us really grow this wonderful thing.
Absolutely. And, you touched on it briefly, but what are some of the major challenges moving forward in this space that you're encountering, but that you're finding solutions to?
Well, one of them is what I said, the data sizes and how you manage different data. Mm-hmm. The other is regulation. It's really a major challenge. Each country of the world has a different genetic laws, and you have to really incorporate that into the system. And growing an ecosystem and building a new blockchain is a challenge by itself. You have to enroll many different players and institutes into this idea. And to grow it in the right way in order for it to succeed and be the major player as the worldwide blockchain for genetics.
Do you feel like medical research is changing its viewpoints on things now that we're going more into looking at our DNA and seeing what's causing these diseases? Are you finding a change happening within that world?
Well, the biggest change, I think, it's in the sizes of the data, the amount of samples that researchers are going to conduct. I mean, genetic researchers have been done for a long time now, and it's not something new. What's new is the possibility and the availability of it that will advance research because it will make it faster and cheaper. So researchers will be able to conduct research in a much easier way with less budget, and this will bring new data that you can do BI and really big data algorithms and find new things in the DNA, and there is a lot to find.
I feel like it's endless. I mean, with having that type of data, you can go in so many different directions. What are some of the biggest things that you've learned with your time at Dnatix?
Well, I've learned that really privacy when it comes to genetics is one of the important things, because once someone has your DNA, you cannot go back. I mean, it's not like a credit card; you can cancel it. Your DNA code, you're born with it, and it's with you all your life. So you better keep it in a safe place and manage exactly who has access to that. And so I think this is one of the most important things I've learned. And I think the world is going to this place exactly where people will own their DNA and will have the decision what to do with it.
And that brings me to my next question. Really, what is the future that you're seeing for Dnatix in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, we see Dnatix as one of the players in the ecosystem, and we already began to develop the future genetic applications, and we are going to introduce some really cutting-edge things. And so we are incorporating genetics into different fields, and in the next few years, we are going to launch different products in this genetic blockchain space, which has to do to different fields, for example, security gaming or different aspects where you can really connect genetics to new worlds.
That is fantastic. If people want to learn more, they want to connect, where's the best place for them to go to learn more and to follow your journey as Dnatix develops more and more interesting ideas?
Well, you can follow us on Facebook, and through our website you can get to all the social networks where we are on. And if you want to follow me, then on LinkedIn, Ofer Lidsky, I'm on LinkedIn, and you can connect with me. And I love to partner with people. I really believe that cooperating with others is really the best way to bring results.
Absolutely. I mean, when you connect with your fellow humans and you have multiple people thinking on the same problem, you're bound to find the best solution.
Exactly.
Well, Ofer Lidsky, thank you so much for joining us here today on Future Tech Podcast and teaching us more and more about Dnatix and the future of genetics. It is such an interesting field to be in and something that affects every single one of us.
Yeah, it is. And I thank you very much for the great interview.
That is Ofer Lidsky. He is the co-founder at Dnatix. You can find them at www.dnatix.com. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been Juliette Lamar with Future Tech Podcast.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.